All right, everybody, it's 11 o'clock, and I want to go ahead and get this started on time. My name is Robin Lee, and I'm the Executive Director of Nexus. We have over 50 people registered this morning, so I assume people will trickle in, but we obviously don't want to sit around and wait, so we want to honor the time of those of you who are on time. We are very excited that you're joining this conversation today. We're in a new normal. You've heard that a lot. And I know for me, the slowdown has been good in that I feel like there's some more clarity. There's kind of a different attitude and priorities and being able to hear from God maybe a little clearer. And I also have been praying that we as just a human race and people will be more apt to come together and work together. And I think that when we do that, and in times like this, we have people coming from different areas of the city, different denominations and faith backgrounds, and that God smiles down on his children and he says, well done. So we just want to have a good, healthy conversation. And I think the way we start that is I'm going to say a short little prayer before we kick off. So, dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for those that are joining us today. And I just pray that your spirit will guide and direct these conversations, that any egos or insecurities will be set aside, and that we can genuinely grow as we connect with people who are different from us and have different perspectives. That you will be honored and glorified through what comes of this. We love you, Lord, in your holy and precious name. Amen. All right. So my name is Robin Lee again, and I'm the director of the Nexus Impact Center. This is a joint effort between us and the Indianapolis Recorder and Fishhook. And we have a panel of 5 speakers today that are going to share, but we are just as excited about what's going to happen in the breakout rooms as each of you will have opportunity to share and participate in the conversation. So we have the Indianapolis Recorder. May seem like an odd partner in this, but you may not know their roots. So we wanted to share this, that historically, the church has been the backbone of the African-American community and has played a multifaceted role in serving the needs of our people. And that hasn't changed, said Recorder President and CEO Robert Shigag. Many may not realize that the Recorder began as a 2-page church bulletin. So a discussion such as this harkens back to our roots and honors our legacy of George P. Stewart. So that's why Indianapolis Recorder is engaged in this, and we're really grateful as they help get the word out, and I'm sure many of you are here today because of that. Just a tiny bit about Nexus before we get started. We are a brand new impact center at I-465 on the north side in the old ITT Tech building, and we were founded on Christian principles as well. We believe that all people need to come together to get to the root cause of social impact issues. And so while our faith is our why, we genuinely believe that we need people of all faiths and no faith at all to get in the same room to be creative and innovative and find the real problems to our social issues. And so we hope to inspire, resource, and unite people around creating positive, life-changing impact. We do that by offering economical space through offices and co-working in a like-minded community. We provide equipping resources and connections, and then advocacy for impact, which is why we're doing this today. We kind of see ourselves as like, if everybody here is a piece of wood, we're like the match that we hope to light on fire today and douse some fuel on it and see what God will do with it. So the other partner with this is Fishhook, which many of you probably know as they work with churches actually across the nation. And Leah Norton, who is the managing partner, is going to be our moderator facilitator today. And she's going to share a little bit with you about Fishhook and the Hope for Indy initiative, and then take it over from here. So go ahead, Leah.
Great. Thank you so much, Robin. Really appreciate the opportunity to be with all of you today. Do you notice how short my hair is in that picture? Today you can see, if you're watching on video, you can see that I haven't had a haircut during this stay-at-home period. So I'm looking forward to that. Well, again, great to have you all here. I wanted to just give a few thoughts and words of encouragement, and then we will pretty quickly move to talk with our panelists, our 5 pastors from 5 just incredible churches here in our community. So we'll move to that in just a few minutes. But as Robin said, I do have just the privilege to lead the team at Fishhook. And we are a communications and marketing team here on the north side of Indianapolis. We are actually moving into the Nexus Impact Center in the coming weeks. So we are really excited for that opportunity to connect with more and more folks in our community through that space. But as our team lives out our calling, which is to connect with churches and ministries to help them with communications and marketing, we love these kinds of opportunities because we love bringing people together to share ideas and to brainstorm and consider how can we innovate together, how can we get creative, how can we bring even more hope and help to our community. And so that's what our team at Fishhook is all about. So I want to go back to, just like many of you, I know coronavirus happened. It has, just really turned our worlds upside down. That happened for all of us, I think, in March. And our team at Fishhook was saying, my goodness, we see so much need. We see people hurting and struggling, and we're going to unpack this more and more as we get into today's time, but we see so much need. And our Fishhook team was saying, what can we do? What are our skills, God-given abilities? What is our experience? What can we bring to the table during this time? And for us at Fishhook, Hope for Indy was created, was inspired. We feel like God laid that on our hearts, and we have wanted to bring that to more and more churches and ultimately to bring it to our community. So let me tell you a little bit about Hope for Indy, because it really is just an example of what can happen when we collaborate together with a unified message and work together to support and serve our community. So Hope for Indy launched as a digital awareness campaign on Sunday, May 3rd. We are now right at about 50 churches throughout central Indiana who have signed on with Hope for Indy. And our goal is that through just some very intentional digital marketing efforts, that we would have a unified message of online sharing about how many churches throughout central Indiana are bringing hope and encouragement and help to our community during this difficult time. And so again, 50 churches have signed on. You can learn more about Hope for Indy at our webpage, hopeforiNdy.org. We're on Facebook. You can see these handles here. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter. And many churches are using the hashtag Hope for Indy. And we're just sharing all kinds of stories about how people are finding hope and encouragement. We are trying to flood social media with this message that our churches are here. They love people. We are all working together to serve and to ultimately point people to Jesus, where we know that is the ultimate hope to find during this time. And so that is the digital awareness campaign that we launched, again, May 3rd. If your church wants to jump in, there is no cost. We have some information and digital assets that we'd love to provide you so that you can join this digital awareness campaign. Now, let me tell you about, we were already excited at Fishhook about this marketing effort, but let me tell you about the collaboration that has happened throughout this month, because for me, it's just inspiration for today's conversations. We launched this digital awareness effort on Sunday, May 3rd. On Monday, the 4th, we got several texts, we got several messages. We already had churches excited and participating. And then some additional pastors and church leaders contacted us on Monday and said, how can we do more together to bring even more hope to our community? And we were we were thrilled because we knew that Fishhook was like trying to get it started with these churches, but more people had more ideas. And so let me tell you about the projects that have come out of this inspiration for Hope for Indy, because if your church wants to get involved, you surely can. We would love to make introductions. And then again, it's inspiration for today's conversation, because we know that our community needs hope and help during this time. And we know that there is just incredible, we know that as the body of Christ, God wants to use our churches together to serve our community. We are really feeling that and believing that. So there are 4 specific projects that are in process. We are open to more. If you have a great idea, we would love to hear it, and we'd love to bless you to kind of provide some leadership. There is several churches. I think there are up to 13 or 14 churches that have actively said, we are going to help put a kids and family event together. It is going to be all online, almost like a vacation kind of the inspiration for this is that vacation Bible schools for many churches are not going to happen this summer in person. And so what can we do to bless our kids and our families? And so an online kids and family live events with incredible teaching and fun activities, interactive activities, games, prizes, but all focused on pointing people to Jesus and giving just incredible encouragement and hope during this time. That is going to be happening the very end of June and early July. So June, I believe the dates are the 28th, the 29th, the 30th, and July 1st. So there are already 13 churches on that are working to put this together. It is free. It is free to be involved. If a church wants to provide some resources and jump in on the planning, that's great, but maybe you just want to sign on to learn more and get your church involved. That is great. I would love to make an introduction there. Just the list is growing of churches that are involved with that kids and family event. There's also similarly some other projects that have gotten started. There is a group working on a potential students event that would be online and open to our community, with churches collaborating on that. There is a worship collaboration project that is in the works, having different worship leaders and people from churches all throughout our community that then we would be doing something together to bless our community and to use in our churches. And then there's also a commercial, potentially a media buy that is in the works. Some of these things are just being brainstormed. So we'd love more creative energy and input, but that churches would come together to make a commercial available in our community to give even more of that hope-filled message to our community. So this has expanded beyond the Fishhook team. We love that. That's what this is all about. Again, there are some 50 churches involved in Hope for Indy. We would love there to be more. So you can learn more at hopeforindy.org. And just for today's conversation, for me, it's such inspiration about how I believe God's at work during this time, and that we as the body of Christ can just bring a beautiful message of hope and help to our community. And I think there's just opportunity for more and more collaboration, and that really sets the stage for today's conversation. So we're so grateful to have you here. I want to move now to talk just a little bit about the community needs. These, if you take a look at your screen, as you all were registering for the workshop, there were questions asked about what are the needs that you are sensing, that you are seeing as you're interacting with your congregation and in our community. And there are just a variety of needs that you can see. And I'm guessing that we're all feeling this personally at some level. And we're seeing this in our friends, family, with those in our congregations and our community at large. And so I'd love for you just to take a moment. I mean, there are emotional needs. In fact, in the feedback that we got, there was so much about emotional needs and just people feeling such a sense of loss and anxiety and stress and fear. I mean, I believe that was the top category of needs that you all mentioned to us. And then there were many other needs, as you all know, with job loss and people struggling just for basic needs. There's a whole category with that. There is category about health and safety, feeling connection, and then there are many other needs. And so we wanted to let you know, like, what are the folks that are a part of today's workshop? What are they sensing? So thank you for how you gave us feedback as you were registering. That really sets the stage for today's conversation, because we know that out of this need, we want to get creative. We want to pray. We want to connect with others to see how are we each serving, and possibly how can we even serve with others and together. And so I would love now to turn, we have just some incredible pastors representing their churches today. There's 5, and I want to introduce them all here at the start, and then I'm going to give you a couple of questions, and we'll just work through just in the order that you see them on the screen here. We will work through. I'm going to give you each a couple of questions and a few moments to report in and share with the group, and then we'll have a little bit of time for some follow-up. Then we'll move into the breakout sessions that everyone can be involved with. So let me share with you who we have here today. We have Pastor Josh Huseman he's the lead pastor at Mercy Road Church. Thank you for being with us. Pastor Jeffrey Johnson, senior pastor at Eastern Star Church. Thank you, Pastor Johnson. Pastor Dr. Ricky McCrae, senior pastor at the Way Church. Thank you. Pastor Janae Pitts Murdoch. She's the interim senior pastor at Light of the World Christian Church. Thank you so much for being here. And then we also have Pastor Shelley Wood, senior pastor at Orchard Park Presbyterian Church. Thanks so much for being here. All right. Pastor Josh Huseman, let's come back to you. And here are questions for everyone, and you'll go first, if you will. Will you highlight for us what are some of the greatest needs you're seeing with your community and right now in this season? And then will you also answer, how is your church creating hope in the community? What are you acting on now? What are you doing now to provide hope and help during this time?
Yeah, and thanks everybody for being on this, and for the 3 sponsors. I just think this is super cool, and I want to learn from some of the other pastors on here. I feel like we've got a lot to learn, but for us, there's so many ways right now. I feel like people are overwhelmed and stressed out, and we initially looked at how can we just get people connected online through Zoom calls, and I think almost doubled the number of groups we have meeting, and they're all online, and that helped. What we saw was a lot of the basic needs you had listed there. We wanted to start figuring out how to make a bigger impact in the community, and we started cutting some of our budgets that would have normally been spent on weekend stuff, and looking at how we can make it a greater impact in the community. The mental health side of things also has come up a lot, of just people feeling overwhelmed and stressed out and not sure how to deal with it. And where I would see that generally in our church that I've been trying to focus on the last couple of weeks is the tension just boiling over of human beings getting along with each other. And so we've been spending some time just studying, encouraging people of like, hey, first we have to be unified as Christians, that the issues we're all facing today, we have very strong opinions and we're often very divided over them. But what does it look like to let the Spirit of God kind of use us to be united on that? But then in general, with the basic needs, I think that's where we have tried to focus a lot of our energy and effort and resources. In particular, as far as the hope we've been trying to bring, we partnered with a number of other churches that gave, I think, $300,000 to raise, I think, money for 250 KN95 masks for healthcare workers that were distributed over the course of the last 6 weeks. And then recently, we gave another tens of thousands of dollars, and we had our outposts administered, I think, to 8 different food pantries, mainly in the city of Indianapolis, but some in the surrounding communities, because a lot of the smaller food pantries were having trouble keeping up with demand, and so they couldn't make the bulk orders. So we kind of put them all together and made some bulk orders, and were able to get food distributed this last Friday. So the basic needs is where we're trying to focus our time, but I think some of the mental health and stress issues are the things that are definitely going to be ongoing that we're just learning how to address.
Great. Thank you so much for your sharing. Pastor Johnson from Eastern Star Church, would you share with us what are the needs you're seeing, and how are you acting what are you doing at Eastern Star Church to bring hope and help during this time?
Good morning to everybody. I'm glad to be a part of this. Somebody was talking about not feeling intimidated when they prayed, so thanks for praying for me. This is something we have never seen before, so it's a challenge to us. Lee, it's good to see you again. I'm very familiar with fishhook.
Great to see you, Pastor Johnson.
Appreciate you guys' work. Well, in our community, we're one church in 3 locations, and the main location is where we've been putting a lot of our focus, which is in Marion County in Arlington Woods. Our zip code is 46218, and some of the needs that we've seen there are needs for testing for COVID-19. Marion County is the hot spot for the state of Indiana. It's more cases and more deaths, and so the need for testing, and then of course the continued need for economic development in that area that has far too long been overlooked in terms of resources coming to that area. Education, we're still concerned about our children, especially now when they're not on site, and a lot of it is online. And a lot of children in that area fall into what we consider to be poverty. And so for a parent to have to choose food over Wi-Fi, so just education. And then, of course, food. People need to eat. There's so many job losses, and that area was already economically deprived, and just trying to get food to people. So some of the things that, and I could name a host of other things in needs in that area, but those are some of the ones that I think are above the others. Some of the things we've been doing in that community, we started the Rock Initiative a few years ago, renewing our community for the kingdom. And the goals, the mission with that, we're trying to do that at a higher level because of what is going on in this crisis that we're in. Part of that is enhancing that community, coming alongside the residents there, not trying to take over that community, but to empower those who are there, to help them to find the resources that they need in order to take care of their families. We also do housing. We've been able to, we opened an additional apartment complex. We already owned one, and we know that some of those persons were having issues in paying their rent. And so we've been able to come alongside those residents. We have still building new homes. Since the crisis has started, we've had 2 or 3 families to be able to buy brand new, wonderful homes that are affordable for them and their families, as well as still renovating homes over there that have been run down and abandoned, and bringing down the property value over there. So we do housing to help with the economic development, and we do financial literacy. We have not stopped that. All the issues is not because of the lack of resources. Sometimes it's not knowing what to do with the resources you already have. So we put a lot of emphasis on financial literacy, and the education piece. We're still reaching out to the schools in that community to see how we can come alongside them, including Arlington Woods School 99, and Rooted School, which is a new charter school that opens this fall, and for them to have to open in the midst of a pandemic. And so our ministry is doing all we can to partner with them. With the food issue, just like my brother Josh was talking about, that we collaborate with food banks. We have a care center. We provided food all the time. Most of our volunteers were 60 years and older, and unfortunately with pre-existing conditions. And so our concern for their health, we partnered with food banks. And so we've still been able to get thousands and thousands of meals out there. We've come alongside the homeless. We had to step up that and partnering with homeless shelters. And then some of the smaller churches that don't have the human resource or the financial resource that God has blessed our ministry with, we've been able to identify some of those and at least try to empower them and help them to pay their bills and help them to feed some of the people that have depended on them even prior to the COVID-19. So it's a lot that's going on. And I tell you, the number one thing for us has been collaborations. If it were not for partnerships, I don't know how we would be able to do the things we're doing at the level we're doing it.
Wow. Thank you so much, Pastor Johnson. So appreciate hearing from both Mercy Road and Eastern Star Church. Thank you for the sharing. All right, Pastor Dr. Ricky McCrae from the Way Church, will you share what needs are you seeing and how is your congregation responding to bring hope and help in this season?
Well, hello again, everyone. So grateful for the opportunity to be with you. So grateful for the Indianapolis Recorder. And y'all can hear me, right? We good? All right, awesome. And Fishhook and Nexus Center. And then these wonderful pastors that are a part of the panel. For us, I'm a father. My wife and I, we have 4 daughters and currently have our niece with us, and all of them are in school at the same time. So keep me in prayer. There are a lot of little kids who we're trying to be educators. I have a greater appreciation for teachers and educators in this season. And so we've had some teachers and educators that are a part of our congregation who have been offering their services to help because being thrown into the position of now trying to teach your child algebra and things like that, which, you know, I'm going to be honest with you, is a whole lot of stuff I forgot, and they do things different now. And so we have helped provide some of those parents who are in need of that kind of help. Also, we've helped some businesses because even with the PPP, the Payroll Protection Plan, some businesses, especially minority businesses, did not receive that help. And then even some who did, 75% of it was deemed to go toward paying employees, but that doesn't help them to pay their bills, as Pastor Johnson was saying. You know, so we have come alongside a couple businesses, and we've helped them pay their lease for the last couple months. We have also partnered, as everyone else has said, partnered with organizations, partnered with Operation Find and Feed to help feed the men at the Wheeler Mission. So we've come alongside to do that. But also, as Pastor Johnson was naming, we recognize some churches are struggling on the technology side. In trying to make sure that they can get their message out, that they can continue to have service. So we have helped churches to get their technology end up, but also financially help them to purchase equipment. So we've done those things. But I believe also kind of at the epicenter of what the inception of the church was about is about hope. And so our message that we're constantly getting now, talking about mental health, bringing on mental health professionals who begin to speak to the anxiety and to the fear, and how do you cope with that? How do you cope with the grieving? Because grieving is not just about losing a loved one or losing a person. Grieving is anything that you lose, whether it's plans, whether it's things, you know, we've got so many graduates who, and high schoolers and kids who have lost this last season, this last semester, and so many people are trying to deal with loss. And so we've brought on some mental health professionals to help in that. So we're just providing hope through the message that we are sending, because I haven't learned anything from being at home with the 5 kids, is at the end of the day, they all have different needs, but within those needs, at the core of it, it is they want to know that someone is in this with them. It's not always about fixing every single problem, but hey, we want to know that somebody is walking with us through this. So that's what we're doing, and I love what everybody else is doing. I want to continue to pray for all the other pastors as well.
Thank you so much for sharing. Beautiful words, and love hearing what you all are doing. And also I hear you with the e-learning, and I saw many nods and chuckles about trying to figure out algebra in this season. So yes. Thank you so much for sharing. Beautiful words.
Thank you.
All right, let's move to Pastor Janae Pitts-Murdoch with Light of the World Christian Church. Would you share, please, about the needs that you're seeing and how your church is bringing hope and help during this time? I think you need to unmute. Can you unmute? Great. Let's see.
All right.
There we go. Great.
The host had to unmute me. Thank you so much. It is good to be with all of you today. And it's good to have the opportunity to share with these great pastors and leaders in our community. It's an amazing time in our world. I don't know if any of you feel the same kind of Zoom anxiety on Zooms all the time, because it seems like this is our new way of connecting with each other and getting familiar with the mute and unmute feature and the share screen and unshare screen feature. It's an exciting time as well as a challenging time in our world. And I want to thank our partners and our sponsors for bringing us together for this very helpful conversation, not to just talk about what we're doing, but to share ideas and grow together. I echo what Pastor Huseman said earlier, that it's just good to hear what other people are doing, to be inspired by the great work that's happening here in this area. And it is a joy that at Light of the World Christian Church, we get to be a part of a community that's interested in helping everyone in all corners of our community be supported during this time. Particularly at Light of the World, we are taking a very special interest in wellness. And when we talk about wellness, we are considering this interrelation, this integrated aspect of our emotional well-being, our spiritual well-being, our physical well-being, and we are trying to be as intentional as we can to provide resources for this community for those areas of need. Indianapolis has a plethora of connections and connection points with food pantries and clothing pantries. And so Light of the World is honored to be a part of that network, offering food and nutritional support in our community every week for individuals who experience food instability and for individuals who during this particular time are experiencing an acute sense of need. But we are also taking very seriously the spiritual concerns that so many people have during this time. And so while we are continuing our worship on Sunday mornings, we've become very mindful that every person does not have high-speed Wi-Fi. Every person does not have high-speed internet to be able to connect online to a worship experience. So we have figured out how to broadcast our service over a phone line. And we use our phone conference line to broadcast our worship services, to have daily prayer calls 3 times a day. We gather for prayer. And what's interesting, for any of you who have spent time on conference calls, you know the greatest blessing is the mute feature. Because when you use the mute feature, you get to control some of the conversation that can be a distraction to your conference calls. Well, one of our learnings has been those moments before the prayer begins are the greatest moments of connection and fellowship. People are able to check in with each other and hear the voices of individuals they haven't seen in a while, and people who are not native to Indianapolis or who might be calling in from around the country get to share their story as well. And that has been a surprising highlight in our daily prayer calls. So at Light of the World, we host a prayer call 3 times a day, 7 a.m., 12 noon, and 7 p.m. for individuals who want to gather in prayer during this time. So the spiritual connections, not just the worship experience, but these opportunities to connect in prayer, opportunities to connect in Bible study. So yes, we have figured out how to have Bible study via Zoom. Yes, we figured out how to have Bible study via web conferencing, but we've also figured out how to have Bible studies over a telephone line. Because again, everyone does not have access to these kind of technological resources that enable them to connect via the internet. So we're doing our best to be mindful of these corners of our community that need nutritional support, that need spiritual support. But then I think our greatest achievement in this moment is our attention to those who need emotional support. Each pastor on this line has already named the enormous pressure that many, if not all of us, feel emotionally. And I would argue that the American culture has always been stressed, but we have masked it, we have denied it, we have avoided the emotional imbalance we have already been experiencing. And COVID-19 disclosed and unmasked the delayed attention that our culture has needed toward emotional wellness. And so at Light of the World, we have launched what we call wellness groups, which are small group opportunities led by mental health professionals to give group participants a space and opportunity in a non-judgmental format to just share and talk. The unfortunate reality in too many corners of our society is mental health wellness is stigmatized. It is covered with a taboo sense, and too often we don't find that people take advantage of the mental health resources that are made available in the community. So what we try to do here at Light of the World is make it a low-hanging fruit opportunity. We don't advertise it as being led as mental health professionals, but each group is led by a mental health professional. We don't advertise it as a support group. We advertise it as a wellness group. And we connect people according to their areas of similarity. So one group is specifically focused on, I'm home, married with the kids, trying to work. So that's one group. Another group is, I don't know how to use Zoom. So they meet on a conference line. Another group is, I am caring for an aging parent. So they have their own group as well. So it is our delight and great opportunity to live into this moment that has been laid before us, a moment to meet the needs of our community, both in a physical sense, in a spiritual sense, and in an emotional wellness sense. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to share what we're doing at Light of the World.
Thank you so much. Love hearing about those groups that are responding to very specific needs in the community. That's great. All right, let's go to our next panelist, Pastor Shelley Wood with Orchard Park Presbyterian Church. Tell us about the needs you're seeing and how you are responding.
Well, good morning, everyone. I had a little bit of anxiety because my internet went down just a few minutes ago. And so if I lose you again, I don't know what's happening. And maybe that's our greatest need, is we don't know what's happening. I think that as I really resonate and echo what all of the pastors have said, and you've named so well, I think what we're all experiencing. If I was going to kind of put it in a overarching theme, what I'm feeling is that we're in this land of uncertainty. We're living in uncertainty from really every area of our life, from what's the fall going to be like, what's the summer going to be like, what's worship going to be like, what's and so we're all living in this land of uncertainty, and with that comes change, and all change, whether good or bad, results in grief and loss and gain. And so there's a lot of paradox happening. There's, we're all home and we don't have to rush. We're all eating meals together. There's a slowing down. There's a welcomed quiet. There's some good in this terrible, and so there's, in grief, there's also joy. And so I feel like we're walking in this paradox and in this tension. And then I really appreciated what Josh had to say too about how there's differences of opinions. You go to Target, you go to Kroger, and 3 people have masks on and 3 people don't have masks on. So there's this differences of opinions as to what is right and wrong, and that causes tension also. So there's just a lot of uncertainty. And so I've been wondering what biblical narrative we are living in, and what stories, what biblical stories were about lands of uncertainty, and what prophets walked into those lands, and what did they have to say? And so I've had a lot of fun really trying to put my head around which prophet I should be listening to, and what they said when they were navigating and walking in places of uncertainty. And so for me, certainly Moses, Exodus 5, 6, and 7 is pretty intense. And then I think of Noah, and I think of Ezekiel. So I've been really honing in on those prophets and hearkening to that deeper self of like, well, this isn't our first rodeo. This is not our first pandemic, and this is not our first time we've been in this land. So who do we go to, and who do we listen to biblically to help us walk into these new places? Is just something I've been working on. In regards to hope and where we've seen hope, I think the thing that we've been the most hopeful about is the statement that we're proving that the church is not a building, that the church is not about the building. The church is in the world, and it's of the world. And so being the church in the world and of the world has been a really positive thing to celebrate, and recognizing that the building does not define us, or it's a lovely thing to have, but the church goes on beyond the building has been a real sign of hope for me. I've loved the agility and the adaptability and the creativity and the resiliency that we've seen, and that's been really positive. One thing that I was really intentional about and it was a real shift. I don't know if y'all felt this way, but I kind of feel like I had a before Easter life and an after Easter life. Like before Easter, I was really sad. I was really, really sad. And I was like, we're going to have worship on Easter, like that's happening. And then when that didn't happen, I really grieved deeply. And I prayed, and I went to the empty sanctuary, and I was just incredibly sad. And then I got in my car, and it was raining and sunny at the same time. And I was praying, and I just heard God say, I'm with you. Now get to work. And I really feel like I had a shift there. And I was like, hey, we need to move on. We need to stop grieving. Like, we need to stop saying things are canceled, and we need to start saying, this is what we're doing. And so I directed the staff to say, we are no longer saying the word, this is canceled. We are no longer saying it's ended. We are no longer saying something's over. Because in my mind, that triggered trauma. It was like trauma on top of trauma, like watching the towers get hit over and over again. It was re-inviting trauma. And so I said, from now on, instead of saying it's canceled, we're saying we're doing a new thing. So Vacation Bible School isn't canceled, we're doing a new thing. Bible study isn't canceled, we're doing a new thing. And you get my point. And so that shift, I think was a mental one, but it was also very purposeful. And and then the last thing I'll say is that I totally agree that nothing can be done without community response. I think that I was on a call with a congregation in Seattle, and they were like 3 weeks, ahead of us. And that pastor, I could see her trauma and I could see her experience. And she said, we can't do this without other congregations coming together. And I took note of that. And I thought, okay, in 3 weeks, when we're where she is, I have to live into that. And we have to be together. And so I feel like, again, that paradox, I've been on more Zoom calls and met more clergy and been more more fed by colleagues across the country out of this experience than I never would have had if this experience hadn't happened. So that's ironic and also something to confess. And that's all I've got.
Those are beautiful words. Thank you. Thank you to each of you. Thank you so much for your sharing. It's amazing to just hear each of our stories, and you each bring a unique perspective, to hear what you are personally working through, and then to hear what your church, what your ministry is doing. And each of you spoke to the beauty and the importance and significance of others and partnerships and collaboration and that connection. And so that really is gonna, I believe, fuel us and energize us as we go into our virtual breakouts, because we want to give this full group an opportunity. It's your turn to add to this conversation. And so in just a moment, Stephanie, our moderator, is going to put us all into virtual breakout rooms. We'll have about 20 minutes in those small groups. Will you, as you're taking notes and having conversation, will you share ideas from each of the groups in our chat? That would be, we definitely want to hear. So just add those comments to the chat. We would love that. And if you are watching, this is being streamed on Facebook Live. We're going to put a link in the comments right now. If you want to jump into Zoom and join one of the breakout sessions, watch the comments, and there will be a link if you want to transfer over from Facebook into Zoom to be part of these breakout sessions. And then for anyone and everyone, but especially if you're on Facebook, we're going to email a summary afterwards. And so if you will reach out either to us at Fishhook or put something in the comments with your email so that we can follow up if you would like notes and information after this event. We would love to do that. So we'll go ahead now for about 20 minutes into our breakout sessions, breakout rooms. Each breakout room will have a facilitator, and they'll go ahead and introduce themselves and get the conversation started. We'll see you back in 20 minutes.
In our group, we talked a little bit about the lack of internet for some, and sometimes it's just not a strong enough internet when you're trying to do e-learning and working and all this. But part of what Nexus offers is memberships, day passes, meeting room space, and we do have high-speed internet. We'd love to have anybody out or anybody in your congregation looking for some space. And then the next two are, or no, next one, what's this? Oh, Design for Good. This is a guide for faith communities to co-create impactful solutions in the world. It's written by Brenda Friege and Stephanie Fernhaber, who's actually navigating our screen for us today, and it's available on Amazon. And then I think that we have a couple, okay, Unite Indy. We have Jim Cottrell, who's on here with Unite Indy. And if you're not familiar with their work, they're doing kind of what we're talking about to do, where they're pulling churches together from different areas of the city, figuring out what the needs in the neighborhood are and how to meet those needs. And they're working, I believe, with businesses and volunteers. And so if you want to connect through Unite India, it's a great program that I think is fully fostering part of what we're trying to do today. So we've been in touch with Jim a lot today and in recent months. And then we have a couple of grant opportunities. If you're not aware of them, Thriving Congregations is through the Lilly Endowment, and applications I believe are due, I think it says on there June 1st. And then there's a second grant opportunity with the Christian Theological Seminary, and applications are due July 31st. Again, those are just a few of the resources, and I ran through that really quickly. We have just a few more minutes. I'm gonna actually, Jim, are you still on the call? Jim with Unite Indy? He may not be able to be unmuted.
Yeah, I just.
Are you there? Okay, there you are.
Yeah.
Jim, because you are doing a lot of work where you're bringing together churches and seeing what the genuine needs are in the community, I would just like to give you a few minutes to share what you're seeing and make any invites to anybody on the call to be engaged in that.
Sure. Yeah, a couple of things. We've gathered on several occasions urban churches to speak together and to talk about the needs in the communities that they serve, and then tried to address some of those needs, which probably take way too long to go into now. And then also had some meetings where we've connected them with suburban pastors as well, so they can get together and get to know each other. So kind of what we do is we try to specialize in making connections like that between urban pastors that may have heard of other urban pastors but don't really know them, so they can get to know each other and share experiences and collaborate with each other, and then to connect them with suburban churches and businesses and other groups that might be able to help with the needs in their community. And just recently, too, we've also worked with our technology provider, Meet the Need, to come up with a new concept called Love Your Neighbor. And that's all about just surveying your own community, the neighborhoods around your church, and figuring out what needs are, and then being able to meet those needs, to be able to log them in somewhere so your membership can look at them and figure out who can deliver a meal, who can provide some goods that are needed, who can do other things, and just take care of your neighbors.
Excellent, excellent. Well, so Unite Indy, their website is there. So if you want to connect with them and that program, they're a great organization. We've had a few comments in the chat. Josh reminded us that Multiply Indiana has a shipment of masks for mission opportunities or frontline workers coming in. And he, I think, yeah, he said he put his email in there to connect with him. So check the chat for that. And then Mike Simmons is with Bridge Builders. They've been doing some conversations around volunteerism and really honing in on your volunteer groups and maximizing that resource. And he put his contact information in there as well in the chat. So check the chat if you haven't opened that up. I do want to ask from our panelists if you have any parting comments or last bits of wisdom that you would like to share before we end. We have about 12 minutes left. So Pastor Josh Huseman, would you like to share anything?
Yeah, just real quick. I love this because of the collaboration that could come out of it. And I love to kind of, get to the point on it too. So if you have ideas, I just want to say our church is open to that. And those masks, I think we ordered about $50,000 worth of masks, many of them the surgical masks, some of them the KN95 masks for at cost, because I know we're getting approached to buy them for people in our congregations. If you have a need for that, reach out. I can't promise it, but I can connect you to the people that they're already paid for, and we want to make sure they're used by the local churches. Multiply Indiana is a network of church plants. So I'm just excited to collaborate. And Leah, any of that information that we can get I know we're doing the digital VPS. I didn't know about the other ones. If there are other ways, if we contact one of the members of your team or how we do that, I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, please reach out to me. We would love to make connections and get more churches involved. My email is, I'll just give it to you. You can go to fishhook.us, but it's leah@fishhook.us, and Leah, Leah @fishhook with 2 H's.us. And we are all about making these introductions and connections. And if anyone has a project that they want to jump in on or something to suggest, we would love to help make that happen. So thanks so much.
Excellent. Okay. Pastor Johnson, would you like to share any parting words?
Yeah, I would. I want to say thank you to Nexus and to Fishhook and to the Indianapolis Recorder. I think the Indianapolis Recorder is celebrating like 125 years. So thank you for hanging in there with us all of these years. Hope I didn't mess your years up. I'll do my closing statement like this. I'm really honored to be a part of this. I think that iron does sharpen iron. This has been very, very helpful to me. I hope that I at least contributed something, but you all have been very helpful to me. I know as pastors, when I just finished a series of messages on Noah with all that storm he went through and that year of quarantine, staying on that ark and then coming out. And the first thing he did when he got out was to build an altar. And if we're not careful, we'll spend all of our time on the ark and no time on the altar. And so let's just make sure that we're praying, we're sacrificing, we're giving, we're worshiping, and we're honoring God as we're trying to come alongside our community. So that's my piece. Go on and handle your ark. You want the people to be safe, but build an altar at some point.
Excellent. Very good. Pastor McCrae, would you like to say a few parting words?
Oh, yes. Awesome. Definitely, just to piggyback on that, the first church in Acts chapter 2, verse 42 through 47, it talks about what they were devoted to, and it talks about the opportunity for the church to be the church. And I believe that this is also a season of opportunities. And so I do continue to pray for all of our churches that we take advantage of the opportunity to do church differently, and to allow us to go beyond buildings and institutions and realize the church is the people. But the verse 47 of that is really what blesses me. It says, "And the Lord added unto the church." And so for us not to forget, after all of our great ideas, to remember that God is the one who can give the increase, fill the gaps, fill the spaces, meet the needs of people that we cannot reach. And so for us to continue to rely on God and to do everything through prayer, because every good idea is not necessarily a God idea. so that we don't waste resources and people in things that God is not calling us to do just for the sake of saying we're doing something. So definitely praying for everyone as they have discernment in this season.
Amen to that. Okay, Pastor Janae Pitts-Murdoch, what about some parting words from you?
Thank you again for including me in this conversation. As each of us goes into our worlds to shift, to change, to carry heavy loads, I want to remind us that we take care of ourselves as well, that we care for our bodies, we care for our minds, we care for our souls. Inasmuch as we give out to everyone else who is around us, we must be very mindful to also care for the temples that God has entrusted to us. And so I invite you to join us at Light of the World online. Every Wednesday night, we have yoga at 6 o'clock. Every Thursday night at 6, we have Zumba. So if you need an opportunity to center yourself or to get moving and get active, we invite you to do that with us at Light of the World at lovelwcc.org, lovelwcc.org.
So good. Thank you so much for that invite and how important it is that we often, especially in ministry, you're trying to save everybody and you lose yourself in it. So, and Pastor Shelley would you like to share some parting comments?
Sure. Again, thank you for including me and inviting me and sharing this conversation. It's just been really a blessing to get to know people and to share in kind of common concerns and common needs. I've been asking our session, our leaders, when this is over, what do we want to have said who we were? What do we want to have said what we were? What did we do? And so what do we want our story to be? And I think that we're living the story right now of what we will say we did in this time. And that when this is when this makes the history books, there'll be a paragraph that says that churches came together and that they were innovative and that they redefined and that they were a force in the darkness. They were a light in the darkness, and that that we are the church and that we made a difference in very small ways that made a big difference. So I think that's my prayer that I live into, and I just join with you in prayer, not only for our community, but for our own individual souls as we struggle and surrender ourselves to who we're called to be.
Excellent. Well, Shelley, would you mind wrapping us up in prayer real quick before we sign off?
Sure, I'd be honored. Let's pray. Most holy God, we come before you with all humility and with questions and with hope. It is in your hope and by your hope that you call us into being a community of faith, to being a witness of truth, and to seeing those on the margins, those without food or shelter, those in violence, those who are voiceless. Help us in all the things we do today and tomorrow to remember that we are your people and that you call us, you love us, and that you give us all we need for today and for the journey. Help us, God, as we build this ark to look towards the altar, for it is surely coming. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. So thank you so much. Just a reminder to keep the conversation going. Reach out to people that maybe you've met on this call and to Fishhook, and we will meet again, I'm sure.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
God bless.
God bless.
Thank you all.